Hi guys, I'm Keith Garman, Johnson Wales graduate from 2009, associate's degree in culinary. I'm also the team chef for the Boston Bruins. Welcome to Cook with Johnson Wales from my humble apartment kitchen here in Brighton. We're going to bring you a recipe that's really taken off in popularity, the cornflake and oat crusted chicken tenders. Team favorite and a really good recipe that's easy to make at home, cost effective, as well as fun for families to make. Kids can get involved, so it kind of fits the bill for all of that. So to start, we'll kind of just go over the mise en place a little bit. We're going to go through a standard breading procedure, how to make the apricot butter, and then we'll make that into the honey mustard for a fun dipping sauce. So to start, for the breading, we have all-purpose flour. Typically when we make things for the team, we're looking at keeping everything gluten-free. While I know everybody at home doesn't have gluten-free flour, all-purpose flour, excellent substitute. But for those who are gluten-free, celiac, or for health benefit reasons, most certainly can use rice flour. They make great blends, cup for cup, things of that nature. Next, there's about a cup and a half of that. That'll take us through about 1.5 pounds of chicken. Second stage of the breading procedure, egg wash. Typically, for classic breaded chicken, fried chicken, egg wash consisting of some eggs. Some people like to pre-soak in buttermilk, put a little buttermilk in the mix, or milk. Again, in keeping it healthy, omitting any dairy from this, and just whisking together 2 to 3 eggs. Again, that'll take you through the 1.5 pounds that we're gonna make. And then the best part, the crunchy topping. So we have about 2 cups of crushed plain unsweetened cornflakes, and then untoasted rolled oats, old-fashioned rolled oats for that. For the apricot butter, we're going to go through about 2 apricots, and then down the road, once it's cooked down in some rice vinegar, we're going to add the whole grain mustard, some Dijon mustard, and honey and garlic as well. Okay, so we're going to, from a time-conscious standpoint, we're going to start with the chicken and get that in the oven first, and then while that's cooking, we'll make the apricot butter. So for our seasoned flour, what I like to do to kind of really boost the flavor, and you can get creative with it at home, tweak it to your preferences, likes of that nature. We're going to season it up with some dried thyme, smoked paprika, a little bit of garlic powder, salt and pepper, but there's many different things you can add into it. Curry powder for kind of a Middle Eastern flair. You want to spice it up, can add some cayenne. That's really where you can have a little bit of fun with it. We'll do that. Add about 2 tablespoons worth of salt. That might seem like a lot, but it's going to get evenly distributed in with the flour. And we aren't pre-seasoning the chicken ahead of time, so we want this to be kind of our bringing out all the flavors and all that. So we're going to dump in. We have about 2 teaspoons of each, the dried herbs, the paprika, and the garlic powder. So we're just going to add that right in. And just kind of mix it all around evenly. All right, you can see it's kind of thoroughly mixed there. We're going to take our chicken. We got a really nice boneless, skinless chicken breast. That's usually ideal. Skin removed. You want the nice, clean, lean white meat for that. So we're going to take, this one has a tenderloin on it. Sometimes if you get it at the store, it might not come with the tenderloin. This one does. So we're going to kind of remove that from there. And then we're going to take, once in a while, depending on the butchery of it, there might be a little piece of cartilage here, but this one's pretty good. It'll be a little chewy, so you want to get rid of that. Then we're going to kind of cut it into thin strips. From here, depending on the size of your breast, you're looking at anywhere from 5 to 6, maybe even 7 if you have a large breast. But this is a pretty big breast here, so 5 is kind of your go-to for that. Okay, I'm going to put the chicken back in here. And then we're going to run through standard breading procedure. Now, this is something that they teach us in school for sure. They definitely did when I was there. And it's really a tool that you can use throughout your whole career in different applications, be it with classic French croquettes or various different applications. Previous job experience, we took rabbit farce, breaded it in the same fashion, and fried it. So yeah, it's a great application to know, to add to your technique, whether you're a home cook, just trying to refine your skills a little bit, or a professional just starting out. So the key here is you want to work with designated dry hand and a designated wet hand. What that's going to do is help ease the breading process to not clump up as you go, which is going to limit you to having even breading and things of that nature. So I'll show you how to do that here. So we'll designate our right hand as the dry hand and our left hand as the wet. That's my preference. Whatever you feel comfortable with yourself personally, please do that. So we'll hit it with a little bit of the dredge. Then you want to shake off any excess, and then we'll go right into the wet. Do a couple at a time. Okay, and then next, just give it a light coating of the egg wash. Let any excess run off. Right into the cornflakes using your dry hand again. Just add the crust right on top, like that. Give it a little pound, it'll get on the bottom as well. You can see that's nice and evenly coated. And then from here, we're gonna go directly onto our sheet tray that we're gonna bake these at. Just evenly lay them out like this. So we'll continue as we go. Any questions so far as we're going along from anybody watching?
Chef David asks, what's your favorite memory of Johnson & Wales?
Oh, that's a tough question. A lot of good memories there. A lot of my fond memories are the connection that you built with your professors. When you're caught up in the schoolwork, it's hard to remember that they're there for your benefit, they're there for your furthering of your career, and are very engaged with your student success as well as once you graduate and you're outside of school. So really making those connections and keeping them over time has really been probably, at this stage, been my most favorite experience to date, for sure. Not to mention as well as the connections you make from your fellow students and keeping in touch with them over the years, helping each other succeed, and just really building that network. And that kind of also, in connection with the school, in the current capacity, this is a great example of the educational partnership that Johnson & Wales has with Delaware North, the TD Garden, and the Boston Bruins. we've been able to give educational experience to a numerous amount of Johnson Wales students. Last year we had a very bright nutrition graduate come. She spent the day with us at Warrior Arena. Really got to see firsthand experience, real world experience on how we kind of do things. We have students who are engaged in menu development design with the Legends restaurant at TD, and then on the other end, Delaware North employees, they have the benefit of continuing their education through Johnson Wales at a discounted rate. So it's a win-win for all parties.
What about a favorite class, Chef?
Favorite class? Garde Manger with Ray McHugh, Chef Ray McHugh. One of my favorite professors when I was there. Really looked out for me. I'm sure he still does the same now. But yeah, that was 100% my favorite class. And you get to learn as well quite a few things that are a little bit on the older school type of thing that's maybe not at least when I was there, not as prevalent in the industry now, but they're great skills to learn, like how to build a proper pate, things of that nature, and really kind of hone in on some of your skills. So yeah, that was one of my favorite classes for sure. Okay, so we breaded our chicken. Earlier we preset the oven to 350 degrees. So at this point we're going to take our tray, we're going to pop it in the oven, 350, and typically these guys are going to take about 25 to 30 minutes. We're looking for an internal cook temperature of 165. That's really going to be what we're looking for. Just pop them in the oven here, like that, and set your timer. My oven timer is giving me a hard time. There we go. So we'll set it at 20, and then we'll check it from there.
Chef, what could a student do to stand out while at Johnson & Wales?
That's a good question. To really stand out, I mean, giving 110% every day. I mean, that's the thing. That's the work ethic will speak for itself. Not necessarily being 100%, book knowledge or practical knowledge, or, one is not more important than the other. It's the effort, and that translates not only through the work that you're going to do at school, but also through the work you'll do outside of school. It's kind of having that mindset. And also acknowledging that the learning doesn't just stop when you finish your time at Johnson & Wales. It's constantly always going on throughout your career, through the people you meet, the experiences you have. So being open to learning from various people that you come in contact with, your work experiences, and working hard. I think those are the two ways to stand out, and the work will speak for itself. So we're going to clear off our breading station. We're going to go into the apricots next.
Chef, could you speak to an advantage of Johnson & Wales over other culinary programs like CIA or a community college?
First and foremost, the culinary program is premier. And secondly, it's well-rounded, where you're getting your general education classes, your maths, your sciences, your Englishes, your general electives, and you're doing so in a university setting with top-of-the-line faculty. I mean, and with that combination, I think it's a no-brainer situation. So the combination of world-class practical experience, being a well-rounded individual and student, so you're not hyper-focused on one thing, because as you go along, you'll learn that these skills translate into your work life, where you're going to need more than just the practical experience. You're going to need people skills, you're going to need communication skills, financial skills, things of that nature. So you kind of get that whole package at Johnson & Wales. So for the apple butter, for this recipe, I think, which will take us through enough for the 1.5 pounds we made, as well as maybe have a little leftover for the next day or whatever. 2 apricots will do the trick. So these have been pre-washed. Essentially, we're going to take these down like an avocado. They have a pit in the middle. Just going to kind of cut it in half and roll around the center of the pit. If you don't feel comfortable doing it in your hand like this, please do it on the cutting board. And no injuries on my. You can see the pit there. So we'll split it, turn it out like this. You can just wiggle the pit right out yourself. There might be a little stem, get rid of that too. Okay. Then anytime we're going to do knife cuts, you always want to put it on your flat surface first. It's going to save you from it moving around, keep it stable, things of that nature. And then we're going to do another technique that we learned at school. They called it the grandma hands when I was there, but I don't know if they call it that anymore. Curling your fingers in underneath that, and then you can use the blade as kind of a safeguard against your hand like this. Whereas if you were like this, you can see the risk. And we're just going to kind of cut it into about 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch slices. This is just going to give us some even cooking as we go.
Chef, we have another question here.
Sure thing.
Since everyone knows that when you graduate from culinary school, you're not considered a professional chef, at what moment in your career did you consider yourself a chef?
I think the answer to that really lies in kind of what we were talking about before, that while you might not have a job title of chef, the learning doesn't stop when you do get the title of chef in your career. I'm still constantly learning things from colleagues, fellow students that I graduated with who are doing various things in the industry, and my own learning as well. But from personal experience, after a long time of hard work, learning in the industry and putting in my dues, probably when I was the chef de cuisine at Alden and Harlow, that was probably my moment of realizing that I had kind of achieved that goal. But that's circling back to what we said before. That's kind of the goals don't stop there. Your career doesn't end there, and you've hit the plateau. You keep pushing yourself to be better, evolve, learn more, and things of that nature. So, all right. So moving on to this, we're gonna take our apricots. We're gonna go over to the stove here. We have a small sauce pot. I'm gonna put it on medium high heat. We're gonna give it a splash of olive oil. What that's gonna do is it's kind of just gonna keep things lubricated as we're cooking. There's gonna be a lot of natural sugars from the apricots. And then once we make it into the physical butter, it's gonna really help bring everything together and emulsify it nicely. So we're just gonna add our apricots in there like that. We're gonna let them sweat down for a few minutes from there. And then we're gonna add in our rice wine vinegar and honey. We'll measure that out now while that's going. I personally like rice wine vinegar. I think it pairs really well with the apricots. It's got a really great sweetness to it. Bright acidity, but it's not too pungent. It kind of mellows everything out really nicely.
Chef, can you just let some late arrivals know what recipe we're making right now?
Sure thing. So we're making the corn flake and oat crusted chicken tenders, and we're making an accompaniment of an apricot whole grain honey mustard. And we're at the chicken tenders have made it into the oven, and we are now making the apricot butter honey mustard. So we're going to do about 2 tablespoons of the rice wine vinegar. And we're gonna do an additional 2 tablespoons of honey. That's gonna help us out with thickening the sauce a bit to get it to the consistency we want. If you kind of want to keep a little bit of the sweetness down, you can add a little bit of pectin into that. That'll help thicken it up nicely as well. But I think honey's great. All right, so see they're starting to soften up a bit here. Getting a little translucent, letting out some of that natural moisture. That's what we're looking for. And then from here, I'm gonna turn my heat down just a little bit. We're gonna add the rice wine vinegar and the honey into the mix. Give it a good stir. And then we're gonna turn the heat back up. We wanna reduce kind of that excess liquid down, concentrate the flavor, and it's really gonna thicken it up nice.
Chef, besides doing cooking demos for Johnson & Wales, what other hobbies or activities have you been doing during the quarantine?
During quarantine, what other hobbies have I been doing? We actually, me and my buddies, we've been playing our fair share of Chell. It's a little EA Sports NHL. I've also been doing a fair share of reading, and actually through the partnership with Delaware North and Johnson Wales have signed up to take some summer classes as well to help complete my bachelor's degree. So looking forward to that. Taking some walks outside, really enjoying the weather. It's been nice the last couple weeks, doing it responsibly though, obviously, and things of that nature. Staying positive.
And Chef, what is your favorite meal to make? Mackenzie asks.
Favorite meal to make for myself at home or for professionally?
Why don't you do both? Tell us both.
Okay. Well, I think this kind of fits both. I would say it would be a handmade pasta. I really enjoy the process of making fresh dough, rolling it into the shapes, and the versatility of it. You can really do all kind of crazy things with it. Great highlights for vegetables, be it stuffing, or making a sauce out of a vegetable puree. The benefits are real and options are really endless.
And Chef Julie _RD says, fellow JW grad here, what year did you graduate, or are you still a student?
I graduated in 2009, and then restarting back up this summer, and then I'm due to graduate then again in 2021, I believe.
What's the craziest thing you had to make at Johnson & Wales?
Oh man, craziest thing. It's racking my memory back. Obviously, I mean, and it's one of those old school techniques that once you learn it, it kind of sticks with you through the rest of your career because you learn. Excuse me, I'm gonna turn this on just a hair. Finesse skills and being able to manage your heat, manage your cooking skills was making hollandaise by hand and making béarnaise by hand. I mean, it's a skill that seems pretty basic at first glance, but it really takes a lot of skill to master it and do it well. And it's a technique that you continue through the rest of your career, learning how to properly emulsify your fats and your proteins, to make a sauce, you can then translate that into making all kinds of creative sauces and emulsions that are maybe more applicable to the situation you're in now, be it vegetable purees or dressings, things of that nature that are all you're doing is swapping out the ingredients, but the application is still the same. So I would say that's probably the craziest one, because it's not easy, especially as a student, for sure. So we're going to check on our apricots here real quick. You can see that that's thickened up a lot, and we've really got them starting to break down a good bit. So we can put that on low heat at this point, and what that's going to do, we're going to keep it from scorching on the bottom, and we're just going to keep moving that around. Like so. Break up the pieces if we can. Keep mixing it around. Okay. So, next stage, while that's finishing up, we'll measure out our mustards here. So we're going to go about 2 tablespoons of the Dijon mustard, just classic Dijon. If you don't have Dijon, you can sub in classic yellow. I mean, use what you have. And then about the same of the whole grain. And then we're going to come over here to our apricots, which are right about where we want them to be. Super soft. You can see that it's very tight. And we'll add in our mustard into there. Give it a mix and you'll kind of see everything start to come together. And we'll cut our finishing herbs for that while that's low heat finishing up. I know on the recipe it says about chives, but I am going to use some fresh basil here. I like to grow a little bit at my house. It's good to have in the kitchen. You kind of can grow it all year round, and then just grab a little bit, throw it in your whatever you're making. But basil and apricots are kind of best friends, so I think this is going to really go nice with what we got going on. If you have chives, great, throw them in. Alliums are great in pretty much anything.
Chef, did you have any culinary experience before you attended Johnson & Wales, and if so, did it give you an advantage?
I did have experience before I started at Johnson & Wales. So, real quick, we're just going to add the basil. We're going to turn the heat off, and we're going to just let it sit while I answer this question. I did. Actually, my first kitchen job, believe it or not, was a dishwasher at a nursing home. I was fortunate enough to go to a high school that kind of had career pathways and was able to get into the culinary arts direction early, and was able to kind of pair up through them with working at the nursing home. But then I kind of realized that this is definitely what I want to do before going to college, and worked at a couple of local restaurants where I grew up in Pennsylvania. And I definitely think it gave me an advantage because you kind of know what to expect from that kind of a working environment. You learn really quick that cooking and hospitality is a lot of work, but the work is worth the reward. So I think that those were kind of the bullet points for what I learned beforehand, but then you learn basic, your basic mechanics of working in a professional kitchen, which are, very different than working at home. Being able to work as a team, learning to work with a sense of urgency, things that carry through your schoolwork as well as when you enter the workforce. So. Okay, so we're gonna check on the chicken here real quick. We're right at 1 minute, perfect timing. So we're gonna take these guys out. I got a little thermometer. I'm gonna go through the thickest part. It's touching anything. We're right at 167 and rising, so I think we're there.
Chef, what did you major in at Johnson & Wales?
Culinary arts. You can hear how crispy they've gotten since they've been in the oven.
Chef, did you meet any famous chefs while you were at school at Johnson & Wales?
So the school does what's called a Distinguished Visiting Chef Series, which I believe it's called. And throughout your time there, they come in, I don't know if they do it once a year, bi-yearly, or through the semesters. I'm not sure how they're doing it currently, but they bring in usually leaders in the field in their specific niche, what it might be. And we've had, my time there, quite a few well-known chefs come through. I'm trying to remember his last name, Bo. His name was Bo, a Johnson & Wales graduate who was on Iron Chef. And a couple other well-known chefs as well. So you do have opportunity to connect with leaders in the field while at school for sure. So let's take a look, see what they look like. Well done. Nicely cooked, super crispy. And then this is the sauce that we've made a little bit ahead of time and cooled it down. But you can see that the texture, really nice, coats the chicken well. Looks great. Awesome. Well, does anybody have any further questions before we sign off? Excellent. Well, this was a lot of fun. I really want to thank Johnson Wales University, the Alumni Association, for letting me do this. And for everybody who watched, for taking the time to check it out. I'm pretty sure you'll be doing this again soon. So check back next week for another episode of Johnson & Wales, Cooking with Johnson & Wales. I'm going to talk to you soon. Thanks.